Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Yo Kids podcast. Before we get started, make sure you check out homeschoolyourkidsexpo.com. Check out our traveling schedule for this year. We have a lot of states to go, and we would love to see you there. And remember, homeschooling was never meant to be done alone. It takes a village. So, major shout out to a couple of our sponsors that our mission to ensure that you are supported. Classical Conversations is a nationwide curriculum provider. And they also offer community support. So be sure to check them out. And Base Camp, an amazing new app. I just released her podcast episode, I think last Sunday. Great app, great platform that encourages community building, and it is free to download. So check it out. Today we have with us Dawn. Dawn, introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, I'm Dawn Battaglia, um, the owner and the person that tutors from Sunrise Reading Tutoring Services. And a little bit about myself, how all of this began. I am one of 8 children, and I always loved working with children, and I love teaching and nurturing them. So naturally, I just wanted to go into teaching. So with that, I got a bachelor's in science in early childhood education, and then I love teaching children special needs. So I got certified to teach in that area as well, and then did graduate studies for children with special needs. And then as life moves on, I got married and I had my first baby, which is really exciting. And a few years, as my baby became older, about 3 years old, I noticed that he had a delay in speech. So I worked with a lot of speech therapists, and just being a teacher of children with special needs, I always worked in a collaborative model. And so working with other speech therapists, I'm like, I'll just hire one in the district, and that's what I did. And so she started working with him. Things went well. But then as time moved on, I noticed that their sessions started to go on a decline. He wasn't really interested. She wasn't really engaging him. And so with that, she comes to me one day and she's like, I have something to tell you about, your child. And I'm like, well, what is it? And she said, he has apraxia. And I'm like, what? I mean, I didn't know at the time what it was, but I knew it was a heavy diagnosis. And I'm like, well, what do I do now? Looking to her as the expert. And she had said to me, well, really, only a neurologist can diagnose it. And I'm like, well, then I should take him to a neurologist. She's like, don't bother because there's nothing they can do for him. And so at that day, that speech therapist left me um, with no hope. And then as I went on to look into what apraxia was, and just so if any of you are unaware or haven't heard of that, it's a very severe cognitive disorder where basically the easiest way for me to explain it is that there's basically a short circuit from your neurology, from the brain to expressive language. So when someone has that, they would have it for life, but I mean, don't give up hope because there are therapies for that, but it is a very heavy, serious diagnosis. So, with looking into it a little bit more, I realized, hey, my son doesn't have this. And, I'm thinking, wow, it's just insane that this person would give me this diagnosis that she didn't have the credentials to do, the ability to do, and that she left me in that position. Well, I knew she worked in the district I was planning on sending my son. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to send him in that district. So then I looked at a private school. There's a Catholic private school and had a great reputation. I'm not Catholic, but I just thought that would be a great place for him to have a good education. Checked it out. It was extremely militant. And when I mean militant, you would go into the gym class, observe it, and the kids weren't even having fun. They didn't have a smile. At least that part of the day, you should be having a good time, right? And so, and then also it was from K to 8. So, I mean, you're talking babies just out of diapers with kids with having beards all in the same building. That didn't really sit with me well. So then I went to another private school. The curriculum seemed great. I liked the school. However, the building seemed not really well maintained. And I was thinking, wow, I don't want him in this environment. I mean, breathing this quality air. And so with all that, I was thinking, it just kind of hit me like, you know what? I have a lot of training. I taught kids from typical to severe disabilities. I'm just going to teach them myself. I'm going to get my hands on the best material. And that's where my whole journey began. And that was 15 years ago. And really, I love the classroom. I've never thought I'd be a homeschooling mom. I thought I was very adamant. I was very indoctrinated. The kids go to school, they stay in the classroom. That's how they learn. And so it really changed my entire life, my whole path of my life. And so with that, I have 5 children altogether, 3 children that I've taught to read, and then I have a baby that's 3 years old. So I have, no matter where you are in your parenting journey, I'm with you because I have children from ages 19 to 3 years old. But going back to my son, where this journey began, now 15 years later, present time, where is he? What happened with all that? Well, he's currently attending college. I just got a letter for him to be, they want him to be part of the Honor Society, and that's with weighted classes such as calculus and Java. And so, what brings Sunrise Reading? Why am I doing this? Because I want to help as many families as I can possible with their children, and let their children reach their full academic potential. And where does that start? That really starts with reading, and especially as homeschooling families, teaching a child to read, I believe, is probably one of the hardest things you can teach your child. But the beauty of it, once you get to that point that they can read, now a lot of their learning self-directed. And so if they learn to read, then hey, they can be self-directed in social studies, in the early sciences, in all areas. And so I want to be able to deliver that to parents because I know that is a big struggle. And then there's some children that just have it's harder for them. And then there's some parents, especially not just saying homeschooling, but most parents believe that when a child, as a baby, they go from cooing to talking, they go from crawling to walking. And many parents, they forget how they learned how to read themselves and they think, oh, well, the next step, the child's just going to start reading. And there are phenomenons, hey, that 3 year old you hear that is reading, but most children need to be taught. It's a skill. And that's why I'm here because I want to give parents that help or that struggling reader. And even I help children that are um, even tweens and teens that are older, maybe they're having trouble with comprehension. So that way they just can have, the best life possible. And I do it at a very affordable rate. So that way I can help all parents, not just, that parent by that private school in that exclusive neighborhood, but that I can give premium service to all families. And that's why I'm here today.
Nice, nice, nice. So you were in the classroom initially before you, I guess, left to teach your children.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and through your time in the classroom and with teaching your own, you felt literacy was a focus or should be a focus.
It should be because if you think about it, if if you're struggling, like, do I focus on science? Do I focus on social studies or, history? What do I do? What is all of that? That's all comprehension. That's all reading. So reading is the most important because once they get to that, then they can read all that. And even if they don't get all the social studies in a textbook, hey, you can read autobiographies, you can read books on your own about specific people, a specific time, and that's going to help you discern too, because maybe something just in that text maybe doesn't jive. Maybe you might feel like, hey, that's not correct in history. I have my great grandmother went through something really different. So I think children, you're able to discern too with that, with the ability to read. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. So Sunrise Tutoring,
Sunrise reading tutoring. Yeah.
Sunrise Reading Tutoring. You all offer tutoring support to families with literacy. Is it all ages?
Yeah. So I start from, yes, early readers. And like I said, all the way up to teens that are maybe struggling, some of them with phonics and some of them with comprehension. I do a science-based method. And so I know we're talking to a homeschooling group, but just so you have a little bit of background, um, reading has been taught in different ways. So years ago was whole language. Well, actually, before that was phonics, and they switched. Academia was like, let's do whole language, was basically learning from rote memory. They just get pages of words, maybe identify a picture with the word, and memorize. Well, think about that way of learning how to read. Did you ever write a grocery list out? You forget the grocery list, you go to the store. How many items did you forget on that list? And so to learn that way, once those once those pictures fade off those books, you get into chapter books. How is the child decoding those more difficult words? And then, so the way I teach is a science-based phonics approach. And it's interesting because the pendulum just swings. Because when I went to school, they just came out of whole language and they knew this was failing. And so I learned, actually all my education was very phonics based. So this is very natural for me. However, things swung another direction where they called it balanced literacy. So they just changed the term of whole language to balanced literacy. Basically, they taught whole language, wrote memory, and just sprinkled maybe a little phonics on it. So even children that are in, regular school, it's been a problem for them also to learn how to read because they not all of them have learned through a phonics-based method of reading.
Indeed. Which one do you find most effective?
Well, absolutely phonics because phonics is a science-based approach to reading. I want to listen to what a scientist has to say and research has to say, not what just academia thinks is a good new approach. And to me, um, it just makes sense to me. It's just to me, it's almost like common sense. Like, how can a child read by just memorizing words? I mean, how many words can you memorize? When you get the skill, it's the skill, right? That's going to give you to decoding that. You're going to be able to go more advanced into those harder books. And and reading is complicated. If we think about the process of it, a child has to look at symbols, know those symbols, the sounds, put those symbols together. Then they have to go to those language centers, add meaning to those words. So it's definitely a process. And I just wanted to throw it out there, not to get on a different topic, but if you're a parent, because I have parents say, I feel guilty, they didn't learn or they didn't get this, it's like, it's hard. It's a hard subject. And some kids, like I said, pick it up real easy, but many children, they just need help. And when you're a parent teaching your own child, sometimes things can be a little harder than when someone else kind of steps in and just, you know, helps you out, and there's nothing to feel guilty or bad about. I mean, if you're searching for help for your child, hey, you're a good parent, you know.
The I like that you gave the history of like academia and their approach to reading in traditional school settings, because I talk a lot on the fact that schools are essentially graduating functioning illiterate adults, young adults. The national literacy crisis is something I don't feel is talked about enough, so I like to mention it every time I have a literacy specialist on because it is a crisis and it's kind of getting ignored. It's like you hear whispers of it, but not enough of it. But what is your take on the literacy? Because you said phonetics is essential, like we need to do
Yes.
phonetics, but the that time period where it was sight words, sight words, sight words. I think that definitely set us back a lot.
Yeah, I think it has, and I don't think that they left that at the door in school. I do believe there's still I have a lot to say about it, so cut me off anytime. But let me just start at the beginning. I'm not here to beat up teachers because as a teacher myself, you go to school to implement a curriculum. You go to school to teach, to manage a classroom. You think there's about 30 kids in a class. And then, so your purpose is you want to implement a really good curriculum. Now, a lot of curriculums are not written by teachers. So as teachers, we're the specialists that comes in, we see the material, and then we are the ones who make up the delivery for it and do it so the child can learn. I find now there's not really a curriculum for these teachers. They're going in and they're grasping at straws of how do I teach a child to read? I don't even know if they had this, if they got the skills in school since things have swung a different way from phonics. Not to go on that point, but so as far as the crisis goes, I believe it is a crisis. And there's a few things I believe that contributed. A, of course, taking the phonics out, that really great way of teaching a child. And I believe the only child to really teach effectively how to read. Number two is that if a child doesn't master a skill, they just push them to the next grade. It's like, whether that's incentive for the school, they're getting more money, or whether just the ideological point of view perspective, like, oh, we don't want to give the child low self-esteem. And, you know,
So we let them go, even though they
yeah,
can't read.
yeah,
We let them go on in life, not being able
yeah.
to read.
Yeah, they
Okay.
graduate high school, they can't read. I'm like, you're right. That's going to be a lot worse for their self-esteem than holding them back in first grade.
Right?
And it's funny because I have coached my close friends years ago. Like he doesn't know how to read. He doesn't know how to do this. I'm like, well, hold him back. Well, they don't want to hold him back. And remember, as your parent, even if your child's in school, you're the advocate. Don't let anyone push you around. You're the advocate for your child. But with that, I actually had a friend tell me, she's like, I was held back in the fourth grade. It was the best thing ever happened to me. She's like, it actually boosted my self-esteem. I got the skills I need, and I'm so thankful my mom did that for me.
Hmm.
So, and then, yeah, so those are the things I believe that are, holding back why kids are not able to read. And about the literacy crisis, it is a crisis. And how does that affect a person? So we think about the one child's going to be their self-esteem. And then we think about just their life. It's going to affect their health. How are they going to make medical choices for themselves? How are they going to discern anything or have an understanding? I think it's easy for them to be influenced in the wrong way because they're not able to have those critical thinking skills of reading material and deciding what's right, what's not. Also robs them for a love of reading, a love of history. And, obviously this is, homeschooling and, your ethnic group, there's a lot of rich history. And say for children from that, I mean, there's a lot to learn because there's a lot where you were and where you are now today, right? So they need to be exposed to that, but they need to be able to read, to understand, and get their hands on those books and understand all of that. And then also, areas where there's a very low literacy, let's face it, there's higher crime. There's going to be less opportunity for that child. They're not going to get that job that they're hoping to get because, of course, someone that has a better level of reading and understanding and that goes not just for, I'm not talking about just college. I mean, that's vocational. Listen, if you're going to be whether a plumber, a mechanic, electrician, you have to have good reading skills. I mean, those areas you still have to have, great intelligence and be able to carry forth, pass tests and be able to understand, what you're doing and even those areas, even in the trades. So it's, of course, again, it's going to affect their job and income. And then you just talk about that's just one child, but what about a bunch of young adults now that are in this group? I mean, that affects society as a whole. So,
Indeed. And I think a lot of times because kids are able to read words, we think that they're able to comprehend what they're reading,
mhm.
but the comprehension is not necessarily there. And so it's like a lot of information is just being told to them because they're not understanding what it is that they're taking in themselves. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, it's a lot going on, a lot, and that's why I like having the conversation, especially with individuals that are focused on teaching literacy and teaching young people how to read, because it's much needed, much needed. So, as far as your tutoring goes, do you have a set schedule? Family set up a schedule with you? How does it look?
Yeah, so I am an online learning service. So everything I have is digital. And they can come to me, they can reach me, and hopefully that you'll be able to just share my information. But they can reach me by just calling me at 480-737-1827. I love to talk to them and learn more about their child. Also, sunrisereadingaz@gmail.com. And then also I have a website, sunrisereadingaz.com. And you can also email me. At this current time, I usually charge $50 for an evaluation. I'm waiving that. So anyone that hears this podcast,
Nice.
I'll be happy to assess your child because like you're saying, there's amazing because I assess children and it seems like they can read and they're reading a lot of these different words. But when I do a really heavy phonetic assessment on it, I realize there's a lot of gaps and there's a lot of things they didn't pick up. So that's, always where I start. But yes, that's where they can reach me. And this online platform, I love it because it's the way of the future. I have two children in college and it's all online. Their professors are getting incentivized to teach online. And, just at my fingertips, in this digital age, like how we're able to communicate. You're in New York, here I'm in Arizona. I mean, it's amazing. We could see each other and be like in real person here. And and with that, that's how it feels, when I'm working with a student, kids naturally are gravitated to the screen. So it's easy to keep them engaged. Just at my fingertips alone, I have access to 40,000 books. I mean, it's just an amazing time. So I have more in my digital classroom than I ever had in a physical classroom. Just that's just how the nature of this works. And also children, I mean, they do not like worksheets, but you put it on a screen and they can annotate it and wow, they can't wait to get to the worksheets. But it's, online is very effective. And it's kind of interesting because when I go back 15 years, and I talked about my son, that speech therapist, I just didn't stop, giving my son speech therapy because I had one speech therapist that didn't work out. Ironically, I ended up getting speech therapy for him online and he loved it because she had all these interactive games and she was a good therapist and it was convenient because then I didn't have to drive him and I have to waste the gas, especially when you have, for parents now that have, different sports and activities, click right on the computer. And then it's very consistent because there's doesn't matter what kind of weather there is or if the child's a little under the weather, they can still be very consistent in their studies.
Nice. So based off the evaluations that you do, you
Mhm.
then set a schedule for the families? Is that how?
Yeah, so I do, so after I do the evaluation, just let you know the evaluation, it's a heavy phonetic component. And then if they're good in phonetics, and there's a comprehension component to it as well. Then what I do, I set up a meeting, a Zoom meeting with that parent, and then we discuss, all the challenges that their child would have. And then before I even set up that meeting, I evaluate everything and I put a plan in place. So when I talk to that parent, I already have a plan set up for them that would be the best for their child. And I like to have set a goal 6 weeks out. I really like to see results within, 6 weeks and a good amount of progress. And that gives me time to be able to do that. So yeah, that's where I begin.
Very nice. And do you have a set time that you work with kids, or is it based off of the family schedule?
It's based off the family schedule. I mean, of course, I am currently tutoring. I have 5 children of my own, but
Yeah.
so I, of course, I have to look at my schedule for things. But I try. I mean, I want to accommodate the family, their schedule. I'm here to serve, so I'm here to serve the family. I'm here to serve the child, and so I try to make it work best for that family and their schedule. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And yes, having five of your own definitely, makes it taunting to like, balance them both. But I would normally, I know you're crunched for time, so but I would normally ask you about your homeschool life
No,
and
that's okay. You can because actually I changed some appointments around, so we're good.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how is because homeschooling, you kind of jumped head first into it, not
Yeah.
necessarily, planning for it, but realizing that it was the best option for your son at that time. How was it going into and transitioning there?
It's funny because I think because I was a teacher, I think in some ways it was a little harder for me because I wasn't as flexible. I had to learn to be
Mhm.
flexible because I was like, all right, I want the student desks and the student chairs and I want this schedule and so that's just how my brain worked and it was very hard, fast forward now because my youngest is 3 and I have, a 9 an 11-year-old, 8-year-old, 3-year-old. I'm not saying laid back as far as their curriculum and getting their work done, but as far as, hey, if they're on the kitchen table, I mean, I do have desks set up because I think it's good for them to have their space. If they're hanging on the couch reading, hey, they're reading. So I've learned to actually things that I was really uptight with in the beginning, I have really become more laid back about. But one thing that I was never laid back about, and that was the reading. That was some because I know once they got that, then they'll get the rest. And of course, I'm not a math tutor, but of course, math is important. But yeah, so that's how my journey. So I went from, like I said, really like rigid to someone I'm like, it's okay. Your
Nice.
child's gonna be fine.
Right? How long did the deschooling process take? Because that's a form of
Years.
deschool. Right. Yes, no, I totally understand, especially coming from the classroom. You definitely have to recognize, like, oh, like I know this isn't right, but it's like this is what I know, so this is what I'm gonna do. But y'all found your groove. Where are you a part of any co-ops? Are you in any kind of
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, so I mean, I was part of some co-ops. I did that when the kids were little, but as had more children, I'm kind of I like to be with my babies. I don't like to be separated from my children. So sometimes I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm not telling a parent what they should or shouldn't do. It's just my personality. But sometimes the co-ops, they don't allow the little babies or they want you to put your baby in this room and you go in that room. So sometimes it's a bit of a juggle. So some co-ops would work with me, some wouldn't. And then because the age gaps are so big in my family with the kids that sometimes it doesn't always work out, but I'm all for co-ops. I mean, I love them. We've had great experiences, but at this time, because I have 2 older ones that are in college, I haven't really done the co-ops. However, we do activities like the kids do swim, and then they we're always doing family stuff on the weekends, and so. as far as that goes, I mean, we're always out and about, and I'm totally open to a co-op. I think I'll definitely be doing it in the future. But life just comes in waves, and
Indeed.
and how I balance all of it too. Like, don't think I'm this overwhelmed parent with 5 kids. We do have our groove, and so my oldest daughter, she basically is my assistant, and she gets paid for what she does because she does help me a lot. And so she helps, and she'll oversee the children. They know their part in the house and what they're supposed to do in their school day while I am tutoring. So she actually runs this household for me
That's
during those times.
beautiful. Is
Yeah,
this
and
the college student? She's a,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
another,
She's
okay.
17. She's actually dual enrollment. So she's
Nice.
college, and then she helps me in the home. But, you know, um, for her though, it's it's funny because I just joke around about, child labor, but we live in a weird day and age where, like, I just remember years ago my family gave me a hard time because all the children would have chores in my house. And as a Christmas card, I was thinking, I'm like, I saw this picture from the Industrial Revolution of these kids, like they all had dirt all over their faces and grass. And I wanted to like superimpose my kids' faces on it and send it out as Christmas cards because that's what they think that. But and I don't know if I'm walking anyone's toes. I'm just saying this is how I run my house. But I feel like giving your kids chores, and like my young daughter, of course, she was agreed to help me with this, but she's getting paid. She's learning the skills of being a mother, of being a wife, being functional, and then also having a job. So, you know, I think it's great. I'm all for kids, doing chores, and of course to their age level. I never overburden, and my daughter, of course, she has plenty of her downtime and social time as well. So
Oh, Don, I'm trying to train my kids, and they're 11 and 8, girl. I'm trying to get them to be my assistant already. So please don't
good.
talk. Look, child labor is child labor. You gonna do some work, okay? I need you. Look, I need you.
Uh,
Yes, no, I'm all for it. I think that's awesome because experience is everything. It really
yes.
is. Allowing them to do as opposed to telling them how to do or telling them what to expect. Actually, just letting them get hands-on approach to things. She's going to be a wonderful, wonderful human being in the future. So I can
Oh,
just
thank you.
imagine. Yes, of course. Do you use any kind of curriculum?
Yeah, I've done a lot of different types of curriculum. Right now, my children are doing the Abeka curriculum. I like it,
Okay.
but look I'm a teacher, so look Becca's really like, however, I'm flexible with it in the sense that as a teacher, I can point out, hey, this is some busy work here. This is stuff that we can skip. Because sometimes Becca can run like a really long day, but I like to focus on the reading, on the math, and then sometimes I'll supplement. They can get history and science stuff through other books and things like that. So I wouldn't say I'm all like just into one curriculum. I'm very open. But as far as like some of the skills, I know it's just easy for me to follow. So part of the reason is just that it's easy for me to know, okay, this is where they're at, this is where they're going, but I'm not for or against anything. I think what works best for each family, go for it. If it works in your house. I've heard a lot of parents talk about all different types of curriculums and things they do, and they sound amazing. So I think just do what
Okay.
works best for you.
Yes, yes, that is my motto. Also, your home, your way. You
I
flow how
love
you,
that.
you flow how you flow, and it's supposed to look different for everyone. I don't think I could stress that enough. That it's okay to look different than others. You really, I am with you though on the reading. I was an English teacher,
Okay.
and I taught 10th and 12th grade. I taught 7th grade, and I can't stress enough, like just how far behind my students were as
Hmm.
far as with their reading abilities, and to know how much time is spent in the public school setting. I stress reading to my kids. Like I
Okay.
don't care what else you do. You cannot do anything else, but reading is a must. I used to tell my 8 year, I said, you're gonna be dependent on Kenny. You're gonna have to depend on her to read for you. Like she's gonna have to go everywhere, be in your back pocket. No, you have to. That's your independence. That's how you gain your independence is by being able to read and comprehend signs, directions, just everything is, and like you said, once you learn how to read, you are able to self-direct through everything else. You're able to do the history, you're able to do the science work, you're able to read the directions. So That's my foundation too, Don. I
Awesome.
really, yes, like reading is that's a non-negotiable, honey. Like if you don't do nothing else today, you gonna read. So
So
yes.
let me ask you this, was it hard for you to adjust? I mean, now you can relate to me about the classroom. When you came to
Mhm.
homeschooling, did you find that you were similar to me or no?
No, only because of me just seeing it as so wrong. Like it just didn't work for me. Like,
Yeah.
just seeing, especially teaching 12th grade, I think that really gave me the oversight I needed to
Uh,
say, like, oh yeah, no, we're not gonna do this. This is not the way. But I was like, because we did have the like we had the signs, like, I put up all the posters and all that good stuff. And we
yeah.
had a reading corner. We had a little carpet that we called the forest because it was green. So we meet in the forest and we'll read together. We did that type of stuff.
Fun.
But it's always been pretty informal with me in regards to how we do it because I just knew that's not the way. Like, but
Yeah.
I totally understand the need for deschooling because even in that sense, it's still, I had to work through things and I still had to transition to the freedom that we're in now, where it's just like, it happens everywhere. Like learning happens everywhere. And I just want my girls to love learning. That's the main thing. I just need them to fall in love with the idea of knowing more. Like,
Yeah.
that's the goal. So it's been a journey, but I will tell you, like you say, you taught three to read. Girl, I taught the one because my oldest did go to kindergarten and first grade. She
Mhm.
also went to preschool. So she's had like, traditional setting. And I don't take credit for her reading. But my 8-year-old though, I taught her how to read. And I'm sorry. I taught her. And I tell you, Don, at the beginning, I would put a book in front of her and she would just bust out in tears. And I just like, okay, let's not do that today. We're not gonna do that. So we did phonetics for like a good year, year and a half, like straight. We had created these alphabet people out of popsicle sticks and index
Wow.
card, and I hold them up and she'll give me the sound, hold them up. We did that for the longest because them books was just too much for her. But now, like to sit back and like, like have her read to you, I'm like I be hitting her like, yo, aren't you proud of yourself, girl? Like, yo, you doing that. And I love to know that I did have a part in that. Like, that is really rewarding. That is really
Mhm.
rewarding. So,
Yeah, just giving her high fives. You need to just give yourself some pats on the back.
right?
Because you came up with this stuff on your own, like you're saying, you're making all this out of popsicle sticks and cards. And I mean, so it is very rewarding once your child, yeah, gets that. But you have such a great, see, you were kind of better than me because you just have like this really nice, cool personality and laid back, like you're fun. So, your children are, they're fortunate. They got you, they have you, and you're, yeah.
Yes, and it's not better. We're just different, Dawn. Like it's no
Yeah.
better. It's no comparing and
We're
contrasting.
so critical on ourselves, aren't we?
Indeed, we are. And but I felt don't compare and contrast. Like we are meant to be different. Like and I can learn something from you just as well as you can learn something from me. So it's just about
True.
learning and growing together really and saying,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you do that over there. Like I like that. Okay, I'm gonna adopt that over here. So that's it. It's no
Yeah.
better. It's just like, hey, oh, that's your thing. Okay. All right. Well, this is our thing. This is what we do. But reading is something that we are both here on, okay? Because I need you to be able to do that. Like, you don't do nothing else because there's calculators.
Like
That's
it's so funny you say that because I think about math and a lot of it is now, it's so weird because the schools are so backwards. Here they give this really complicated way to do a multiplication problem where you should just be
yes.
memorizing the facts. But here they switch it where it's like they make it really complicated to get like 2 times 3, but then to teach reading they're like, here, just memorize words that you can phonetically decode. It's like it's backwards.
Yeah, because for the math they have them drawing lines and like it was like, what are you doing? Like no, 6 times 4 is gonna be 24. Like I don't know, like why I have to do all this? Like why? Like now we
Yeah.
in art. I don't know how we got here, but yes, it's I don't know. It's just a lot, and I just love being able to share with parents or make parents think about things that they probably didn't
Hmm.
normally think
Yeah.
about. Like, just so these conversations are important because it's just like, oh, shucks, that's going on, or I should pay attention to that. And so it's nice to be able to, just exposure. The conversations are
Yeah.
being had. We are having the conversations. So, okay, y'all are in the activities. You're doing it. You know, you got the groove. You got your assistant. You got the 17-year-old dual enrollment.
Right.
How did that work out? Because as far as the dual enrollment, did she decide early on? Like, when did y'all start talking about college? Let me ask that. When did y'all start talking about college?
Well, I've always talked to them about college. What is it that at a very young age, and I always encourage parents, like, don't wait till they're 18, be like, what do you want to do with your life? If they have a skill, now my daughter is extremely artistic. And so I knew at a young age this she has a special talent here. And I always put her in art and that type of thing. And so we really didn't talk about the college. It was just to a point like, even if you put her hope really is to be a stay-at-home mom, homeschool her kids, have a family. I mean, that's what her desire is in life.
Oh,
But
lovely.
but life happens, and so for me, even for my daughter, even though that's her goal, that's what she wants. It's like, well, but you need to have a skill, and you can make your own. You can make your own income, and I hope that she has that life she desires. She gets married, she stays home, focused on the kids, and but what if sometimes we have storms in life? And what if she has to get into that workforce? What if she has to bring income to the home? I want her not to be struggling at 30 years old trying to figure it all out in a situation, but I want to be able to give her the skill and also to have a side business because let's face it, sometimes when you're in the midst, and you can probably relate to this because you were in the workforce, you're home, you're teaching your kids, you want a little bit of a piece of you, right? Your ability, what you
Mhm.
have. And maybe you do that you could share maybe do that through your maybe a co-op you're in or with friends or how family, but your skill and your talent, you also want to also continue that and grow in that and give. So going back, not to get long-winded, but I just wanted to give you a little background on that. So when do we talk about college? I always talk to the kids, what do you want to do at a very young age? And then the dual enrollment kind of happened like this because when I realized the kids can do dual enrollment, I was like, okay, and it's so easy now because I just had them they're in a community college, so I just had them do their test online. And they did the test, and then it showed them their placement, and then they just started with it. So it wasn't kind of like you feel like doing this. It was like, okay, this is our next step. You want to do graphic design? Does that seem like something you're talented? You're okay. So I kind of pretty much nudged push because I think they were probably a little more hesitant, but now they're happy. They're all getting A's. I mean, so they're super excited. But I actually think in some ways, I mean, of course, here's the beauty of homeschooling because especially when they're learning online, when they're taking college course online, that's all self-directed. But as the kids get older, and you may find this like with your reader, a lot of her work may now be self-directed. You just kind of pointing her in the direction of what to do. So my kids, it actually went pretty naturally into the next step of college where I kind of think, and I'm not looking down. I mean, whatever you choose, whether you have to put your child in school or what have you, but I think the kids have advantage of being homeschooled because they're used to having this independence, learning on their own, and I don't have to be behind my kids being like, "Did you get your assignment done? Did you do that?" Like they know what's expected, they can see, and there's a lot of beauty to that. So long story short, I threw both my kids in college and dual enrollment. It wasn't like, hey, let's have a discussion. What do you feel like? It was like, all right, well, here's a test. It's time. No, mom, no. But as parents, we can see the future. We know what's best for them.
Mhm.
And we know, sometimes you just have to push and nudge because I think homeschooling, we can be a little harder even sometimes in some of these college courses. So when they're thinking college, they're thinking, this is going to be so difficult. I mean, homeschooling some of these, because when you do some homeschooling curriculums, they can be pretty challenging. So,
Indeed.
so if you're a parent and you're bordering, I mean, what do you have to lose? I mean, worst comes to worst, you lose a little money, withdraw them, from the class. But know your children. I mean, I wouldn't throw a child in that. If you know your child, say you knew as a literacy teacher, in high school, your child's struggling to read, in ninth or 10th grade. Yeah, I wouldn't throw them in a college class. Get them that skill first.
Yeah.
And I'm not one about they have to get into college young. I just knew it was the right fit for my kids at that time. Maybe my younger kids, they won't be ready at that time. And I'm not going to push it. So I think know your child, know when they're ready. But if they need to master more skills, that's okay too. Like you said, I mean, every child's different. I look at every child, all my kids are so individual and it's amazing. I have 5 kids. They all have a different personality. It's
I
like,
know.
how in the world,
Same household, same parents. Like, it's wild to see. But in seeing your own, you're able to see the individuality of people.
Right, right.
I
So
love
yeah.
that your daughter wants a soft life. I love that for her. She's like, Mom, work. I'm not trying to do that. I want to work in the house. That's what I'm gonna do. But no,
Well,
that's you almost
but let
like,
me tell you, being a housewife and making that your career, and if you have a lot of kids, it's not that soft.
no, yes,
It's a
girl.
lot. It's a lot of
Yes,
work.
yes, yes, it is. And I can imagine with five, and like you said, with all those personalities, and then on top of teaching them, you're not even, sending them anywhere. You have them all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, though, don't forget I'm from a family of 8 kids. So for a lot of people who are from smaller families, it's just that they can't comprehend that. Or I grew up in that. I grew up in noise and busyness, and that's my default. I love that. Like I love to hear. I don't like hearing the kids fight. Right? Let's face it. Sometimes they fight, but most of the time, my house is like them playing and laughing, and someone's baking, someone's doing crafts, someone's working on a computer. Like I love that. I love
That's
the busyness.
comfortable.
That's home.
Nostalgic.
It
Nostalgic.
is.
Yes.
It's
Where did you
it's home
fall
for
in the
me.
eight?
Yeah, so I am the fifth of 8 children,
Okay.
and so then I helped with my younger siblings and I had, my older sister, she was very involved in extracurricular, well, to try to let me summarize a little bit. So, yeah, I'm the fifth of eight, but my mom, after she had her eighth baby, went back to school to be a nurse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, with that, my older sister was in a lot of extracurricular activities. So my mom and I was more of a kind of a softer person and kind of nurturing. So my mom, kind of handed me a lot of the responsibility in the household and the child rearing, which I was fine to do and happy to do. But when you're a child, you're like, I wish I was the only child. When you're a kid, like, what in the, this kid's getting to go out, this child's doing this one has those toys. I look back on my life and I'm grateful because it just made me a stronger person. I'm able to handle a big family. I'm able, and all because of part of my upbringing and the experience. And so, like again, I that's where I fell in line. But I enjoy having a large family, and my husband's a great support. I mean, he also helps to reinforce the household and the kids. I mean, it takes two, and so.
Yeah.
I'm grateful because if it wasn't also for him and his guide in this, then I don't even think I'd be doing the tutoring because he helps along to make sure the kids are needing what they have. But kids that work, kids that are productive, are happy kids. You look at all these kids that get all these toys, have this cushy life, have all these activities, but don't have any other work or any other goals. They're not very happy. They're not. You have a
Happiness
society,
is the goal.
you have a society of depressed young individuals, young adults. Why? So I do believe that, it helps your self-esteem when the kids do have goals, household duties, those type of things.
Yes.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
first, your mom is a superwoman because had to birth 8 children and then to go on and say, you know what, I want to go help more people. Let me go be a nurse. Like of
Yeah.
all things to do,
Yeah.
like a nurse, like that. That's a lot. So
Yeah.
you
Well,
have some great
yeah.
inspiration.
Thank you. No, I look back, she really is amazing. That, both my parents are from Newark, New Jersey,
Oh,
and
shucks.
and not far from being from immigrant parents and for themselves, and then of course giving us a great quality. It actually tears me up, but they gave us a great quality
No.
of life and a big family. And my mom was very strong, very smart, very intelligent. So it didn't surprise me she wanted to go to school. She was a very, very smart woman, and to be a smart person, you don't have to have academics. I mean, there's just very intelligent people out there. My mom was one of those, and plus, she was just strong. I think she helped me because she was just a very strong-minded person. She wouldn't break. She would just, this is what's going on. This is what's on my plate. I'm just going to get through the next day and handle the kid, handle work. So you think about a parent when they have like young adults and then an infant in their arms. It is it's a lot. So I'm thankful. I look back at how she did, and yeah, that's probably why I'm able to tutor and have all the kids because it's definitely from
Indeed.
her
And that's why I was
inspiration.
thinking that's why I was correlating because
Yeah,
you've had your five and then it's like, okay, well, I still want to give and I want to serve and
yeah,
I know what is needed, which is literacy. Can't stress it enough. Like we need our kids to be able to read. We want them to be able to read and enjoy life because like you associated the self-esteem
hmm
and reading, like, come on now. we talk, I feel like if we were to survey people in prison, people in jail, and see
Yeah.
how many of them actually like have a strong literacy, like, a literacy skill as far as reading and comprehending, I feel like the numbers would be really low, really, really low. And I
Yeah.
think that needs to be examined because that correlates.
It does. It does. Actually, and there is research out there. What you're saying, you're spot on because there is research that shows that hey, low literacy does that unfortunately leads to those to that path. It can lead to that path. So yeah, literacy is it's so important. And what you're saying is exactly right. Yeah.
I have two more questions before I let you go,
Yeah,
love.
sure.
One, because of all that you're doing as far as the
Yeah.
five go, and then as far as the tutoring goes, and being a wife also, how do
Mhm.
you self-care? How do you take care of Dawn?
Yeah. Okay. Not many people um, like this as much, but I enjoy working out. So in the
Okay.
mornings, I have a treadmill, and that's my family knows, like they know my routine. Like I get up, like, all right, I'm gonna go work out now, and then they know what to handle. And then in the evenings, I like to do resistance training. I like Pilates because I had a lot of kids. I like to keep the core tight, keep everything.
Hmm.
And so I do, just a short Pilates session in the evening and some weights because as I'm getting older, of course, I don't want to atrophy my muscles. You know, and it's funny because, people when they work out, they just think of, having to strengthen their body and this. It's a mental thing for me. It's like my mental escape. It's like my happy place. So it's something I mentally enjoy doing. Like that's more than just, I mean, I like the effects of it, of course, because I want to feel good. I want to I think about, and especially when at my age, when your parents, I have my mom that had passed and my father's 89. So when you have elderly parents, you start thinking about how do you want to age, and how you age is what you do now because it's a cumulative effect. So, whatever God, I'm going to do what I can, whatever, however God wants to deliver me my elderly age, that's in His hands. But I'm just going to do the best I can now. But not to get on a tangent about that. So, but going back to self-care, so I feel working out is like one of the main things, and of course I just because I tutor and stuff, I always try to dress nice and reflect that in the house. So, like when I get up, I don't want to just hang out in pajamas and be laid back. I want to kind of also show my kids like when you present yourself in the world. I'm not saying they're going out in tuxedos and, prom gowns, but I mean, there's a presence because people say, well, looks don't matter. Yeah, appearance does matter because that's the first thing someone sees. So if you're going to present yourself, you know, you don't need to have black, under your fingernails and,
Hmm.
and smell like, So anyway, self-care, I mean, all that goes into, yeah. So, but I would say my biggest thing, the thing I love to do is just get a workout in before
Workout,
and after. And now that I'm tutoring, I do a lot of sitting. Like I need it, like just for my
move your
mental.
body.
How about
Yeah.
you? Are you into that or do you
Yes,
work out?
well, not so much as like, I don't know what your workout, because you said treadmill. I'm not doing that. But I do walk.
Yeah, that's what I do. I do a walk and sprint.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not a runner.
Hey,
I tried it and I didn't enjoy it. And my thing is, I want to do something that I'm consistent at. And why
yes.
make myself do something that I don't enjoy? And I know people are like, well, you just get to that point where I don't want to wait to get to that point. But I do enjoy going on the treadmill and walking and sprinting. That I enjoy. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off, but go
Oh, no,
ahead.
no
Yeah,
worries.
yeah.
I'm not on the Pilates level, but I do yoga. I
Okay.
like to stretch, things
Yeah.
like I want to make sure things stay active in my body, my body. And
Yeah.
I tell this to people all the time. I still want to have more kids. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so, like, I want to make sure I'm agile. And I know you have a 3-year-old, so you want to make sure you are able to keep up with
Yeah.
that little person because, they keep you on your toes. But I just like to do like things like that, like light things.
Yeah.
And like my girls make me play tag with them at the
Oh.
park and things like that. They always look, because I always have on slides. And so they be like, do you have your tennis shoes? Do you have your tennis shoes? It's like, so that's the most running I do. But as far as like, taking care of myself, I do like to I do meditation, I do the yoga, stretching, like I said, and walking. Like I don't mind walking. We're in New York now,
Mhm.
so
Yeah. You have
this
the
is,
nice weather. I'm in
yes,
Arizona. It's been nice, but it's heating up. But no, yeah, you have the great weather
I'm
too.
sure. Yeah,
Where in
no,
New
it's kind of
York?
cool. We're in Brooklyn. We're
Oh,
in
so your
Brooklyn right now.
city.
Yeah, we were just
Yeah.
in Newark. We were in Newark last week because I had to build up enough courage because we're in an RV, so I had to build up courage to actually drive it here because I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going. I'm not driving Newark because Newark was enough. Like they were beeping at me, going around me, looking like, yo, move, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. But I had built up enough courage after talking to this man because our RV is 28 feet. We were in the Walmart parking lot
That's
and this
big. Oh my.
yes, but this guy had a 36-foot RV. And so he said, oh, yeah, I drove to Manhattan and da, da, da. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, is this a challenge? Like, so that's how we ended up here. But just killing time into the Morristown, New Jersey event this weekend.
Fun.
Yeah, we'll be rolling out Thursday. But yeah, so
That's
that's
okay.
that's my
I couldn't do it. So hey, kudos to you. I mean, whoa. I don't think I have that spatial sense. I could do the reading, but that,
I
yeah.
know because people always see it and be like, do you need a CDL for this? I'm like, no, actually, no. I've been pulled over twice. Nobody's asked me about anything. Like, I can tell you for a fact. Like, neither one of them said anything about it. So yeah,
Oh my
no, it
gosh.
looks like a bus, but it's drivable. It's drivable. I've gotten used to it. And I drove it from Arizona. I got it
Really?
in. Yes, yes, really. And that's just a whole thing in itself, Don. We know you're
Yeah.
about to get on that.
I would never drive here from I fly, so yeah. No. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, okay, last thing before I let you go. Three things
We're
if
having so
parents
much fun. I don't want to let go. I don't want to get
see,
back to my work. No, I'm just kidding.
see exactly. Look, three things if parents didn't hear anything else during this conversation, what are three things you would like to leave them with?
Three things I would love to leave them with is love your children. Just love them. Because that time with them, it's so short when they're young. Just before when they start getting where your kids are double digits, it goes so quickly. And I think really, I mean, it sounds corny, but really you love them because that stays with them for life. That builds their esteem. So start with that. Don't over criticize and guilt yourself. If you're loving your children, and I mean, let's face it, we can always look back in our life, wish we could have, should have, could have done different things. That's life. Just where you are, stay where you are, and just go forward and don't beat yourself up as a parent. And I still have to work on that too because there's things I wish I would have done different. But at the end of the day, we're not perfect people. Listen, and my mom, I love this. She always would say, I'm not a perfect parent, but you know what? Children aren't perfect either. There's no perfect parents and there's no perfect children. So I still I think about that she shared with me. And then the last thing I would say is you want your children to have the best success. You know, I would say know what they're capable of. Know, are they an analytical? Are they a visual? Are they great in art? Are they great in math? And then I would, gear them to what they love. Don't force what you want or try to live through your child about the things that you wish you accomplished, throw it on them. Just let them live the best life they can live through their God-given talents that they have and give them those skills that they need to accomplish those God-given talents. And that's just going to give them, I believe a happy life. Now, am I perfect at all those areas? No, but that would be
But
what
we're
I would leave people with. We're
growing.
growing.
Yes,
I learned
yes.
so much as being a parent. And I'm continuing to learn. But as far as having a, big family, I mean, I had my last baby at 47. So just to give you a
Really? Oh, see, thank
timeline,
you, Dawn. I needed that because I'm 40. And people be like, oh, 40, you still want to have kids? Like, yes. Like, what do you mean? Like, I am young and agile. What do you get out of here? So
no,
thank you, Dawn. And I would not have given you 47, girl. You keep on doing those Pilates and that treadmill because, honey, you got it, okay?
I
I
had
didn't.
three children in my 40s. I had my first baby at 31, my second one at 34, my third baby at 40, 42, and then God gave me my last baby at 40. Why do I say God gave my last baby? I mean, he gives you all our babies, but my mom, the day that I found out I was pregnant, it was the same week my mother was passing away. So I do
Aw,
believe it was a comfort. But anyway, 40-year baby, you have lots of babies. Have
thank
lots of
you.
babies. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Don't listen to any of that
Oh, I
stuff out
don't.
there.
You know I don't. Like,
Yeah, you
I don't listen
don't.
to people. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But But that is
Yeah.
awesome, Don. You look great. You really do.
Oh, thank
So
you.
to know that you have rate, look, another example of look, you can look like this and still homeschool. Like they don't tear you down, guys. Like give it a try. But no, thank you. Thank you for all that you have created. Thank you for all that you do. I know you're an ESA provider, as far
Yes.
as a vendor, ESA vendor. So Arizona families know that you can use those ESA funds to use those services, Sunrise Reading Tutoring. All the links will be available in her description, so definitely check those out. But know that the support is there. Like anything you need, I know that the support is there because I talk to people all the time that have created and are working continuously to make sure we are supported. So tap into it and just always and forever homeschool.